What's up, everyone, and welcome back to Oba's Trending Gist, where we break down the stories that have everyone talking. Today, we are diving into a very controversial topic following the recent passing of the Nigerian's former president, General Muhammadu Buhari. Social media has been on fire with mixed reactions. While some are mourning, others are openly celebrating and mocking his death, particularly pointing out that he died in UK after, in their view, failing to build a functional healthcare system in Nigeria. Now, here's the twist. Reno Omokri, a man who famously spent years leading the Harass Buhari out of London protest, has just dropped a video that has left everyone scratching their heads. He now argues that celebrating Buhari's death shows that Nigerians don't know how government works, claiming it's the private sector's job, not the government's job, to run healthcare. Is he right, or is this a classic case of political hypocrisy? Let us watch this video first, and then we'll get straight into the gist. Take a watch.
Since General Muhammadu Buhari died, I've seen a number of people in society mocking him, celebrating his death, and denigrating him for dying in the United Kingdom, saying he did not build hospitals in Nigeria. You see, the problem with Nigeria is not really the government, it's with Nigerians. We do not understand how government works, and that's understandable because after the January 15, 1966 Nzegu Ifeanyi coup, it unleashed decades of military rule in Nigeria, and so we lost understanding of how a democratic government is meant to work. If you look at these countries in the Western Hemisphere, the United Kingdom, the United States, Germany, and then also progressive countries in Asia, India, Japan, Singapore, it is not the government that builds hospitals or runs the private sector. The government is not designed to do that. No country, except you have a socialist or communist country, has a system whereby the government successfully runs the private sector, because governments are not designed to do that. The private sector runs the healthcare sector, even in the United Kingdom. In the United States, that's how it is. In the United Kingdom, you have a health insurance whereby you have a quasi-non-governmental organization that collects taxes. They call it the health tax, and then gives those monies to the private sector. You cannot have a successful public sector run healthcare system. It doesn't work anywhere. And Nigerians are notorious for saying that, okay, Nigeria is an oil-rich country. We make about $36 billion from oil and gas every year. What's our population? About 230 million. If you divide that by our population, you get about maybe $150 per citizen. Where can that take you? From that, the government has to pay civil servants, the military, build schools, build roads. It's not enough. And Nigerians don't pay taxes. We've got one of the lowest tax to GDP ratio in the whole world. Less than 10% of Nigerians pay tax. And then if you consider that in the United Kingdom, if you earn about £50,000, half of that is going into taxes. In the Eurozone area, especially Germany, if you earn about 54,000 euros, half of that is going into taxes. In the United States, if you earn about $84,000, half of that is going into taxes. If you tell that to Nigerians, there's going to be mayhem, riots, protests. But then we want the best healthcare system. We watch movies. Oh, we want systems like that. How is that going to work? We have the National Health Insurance Scheme in Nigeria. Nigerians don't pay to it. Nigerians want to have an accident and then go to a private medical facility and want that doctor to spend millions on their healthcare, and the doctor doesn't do that. They'll say, this man is wicked, because we do not understand how government works. Listen, the government of Nigeria can never, even if you bring an angel, they can never, except we become a communist country or a socialist country, and then if we do that, we've got to give up private wealth. All of it is going to go to the government, and I know that Nigerians are not ready for that. So we've got to understand how government works. If we want a thriving healthcare sector, it's going to be the private sector that is going to run it like a business. So either we have a national health insurance scheme that Nigerians pay into, or Nigerians will get private medical health insurance or go to private facilities. Governments cannot do that. Not in America, not in England, not in India, Japan, Singapore, and certainly not in Nigeria. General Muhammadu Buhari, he had a mixed legacy in government, but he wasn't that bad. If you look at it, he built projects that united Nigeria nationally and internationally, like the Second Niger Bridge, and then also the Kano-Maradi line. So let us just think deeply before we begin to insult this man even in death. Some people are doing it because they have a grudge with Nigeria. They want to break away from Nigeria. Do not allow them mislead you, because it makes us look like barbarous people when we behave like this. Civilized people don't behave like this. My name is Reno Omokri. Thank you for watching, and may God bless you.
All right, you've heard it from the man himself. Reno's core argument is that in successful democracies, the government doesn't build or run hospitals. Its role is simple: to create an enabling environment for the private sector to do so. He also points out that Nigerians don't pay enough taxes to fund such a system. Now, on the surface, there's a tiny grain of truth there. A robust private sector is crucial, but his entire argument is deeply flawed, and frankly, it is incredibly hypocritical coming from him. The public reaction was swift, and the comments on his own post tell the whole story. Let us start with the most obvious point raised by a user named Smith Olawale, who said, and I quote, "Finally, I lose hope in you, Ogareno. For 8 years, you cost this man, his government, his policy. Now you are saying he can't build hospital. Haba, Mr. Reno." And that's the heart of the matter. For 8 years, Reno Omokri's entire brand was built on criticizing President Buhari for seeking medical care abroad. His argument then was that a leader should fix his country's hospitals and use them. He never once said, "Oh, it's not his job, it's the private sector's job, so what's changed?" This sudden 180-degree turn feels less like an intellectual evolution and more like a convenient way to reposition himself. This leads us to the next point. Reno said the government's job is to create an enabling environment, but that's precisely what critics argue the Buhari administration failed to do. An enabling environment isn't just about low taxes. It's about security, a stable economy, reliable power, and policies that prevent brain drain. How can the private sector build world-class hospitals when doctors and nurses are leaving the country in droves due to poor pay and insecurity? Issues directly linked to government policy. He is defending Buhari by using the very standard that Buhari failed to meet. Furthermore, his examples are misleading. He mentioned the UK. The UK has the National Health Service, the NHS, one of the largest government-funded public healthcare systems in the world, while private sectors exists. The NHS is the backbone of British healthcare, funded by taxpayers. The idea that government has no role in running healthcare in this country is just not true. This hypocrisy hasn't gone unnoticed. A commenter named Mahid Shehu described Reno as seeking for attention in the style deployed by new harlots in a new environment. In a new environment, maybe say, if Olosho change location, it go be a scent or something like that. That's what this guy is basically saying. Seeking for attention in style deployed by new harlots in a new environment. While the language is harsh, it captures the sentiment of many who feels this is a self-serving pivot. And perhaps the most direct and accurate summary of the situation came from Taiwo Paul, who said, "Baba, this video now is contrary to your word then. Simple, direct, and completely accurate." Of course, in Nigeria, everything eventually becomes politicized. So another commenter, Kumbo, tried to frame the celebration along ethnic and political lines, saying, "Please address them Obi goats." Well, he is referring to a section of people. That's his business. "Please address them Obi goats directly. They are the ones celebrating." This shows how this conversation can quickly get derailed, but the core issue of principle and consistency remains. So here is my own take. The problem isn't that Nigerians don't know how government works. The problem is that they see a leader who promised change but continued the traditional of medical tourism. And they see a prominent critic who built his frame on holding that leader accountable suddenly change his tune the moment the man is gone. It's not about whether a government should build every single hospital. It's about leadership, trust, and principle. When a nation's leader don't trust their own healthcare system, it signals to both the citizen and the private sector that the enabling environment Reno talks about doesn't actually exist. What do you think about this? Was Reno making a valid point, or was this a breathtaking display of political gymnastics? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And that's our gist for now. If you found this breakdown insightful, do me a favor and hit that like button. Please, I dey beg you, please, make una subscribe to Oba's Trending Gist and ring that notification bell so you never miss an update. Na me be Oba, and I will see you in the next one.